Man, let me tell you something. This one wasn't supposed to go down like that. You ever see a guy walk into a room thinking he's about to run the show, talk his way through, get the crowd laughing, play the big man on campus, only to realize halfway through he just stepped into a minefield he didn't even know existed? Yeah, that was Mark Levin that day. And what happened next? Well, that's the reason people still say, debate ended, period. Mark Levin came in with that same old swagger, the radio veteran, the legal commentator, the guy who's built his whole career on out-talking everyone. He's got his notes, his sarcasm, his smirk. The man's ready to make a show out of it. You can almost hear that voice in his head going, "I got this, easy whoa." The camera catches him leaning back in his chair, confident, grinning, the kind of grin that says, "This won't take long." Meanwhile, on the other side of that room, Jasmine Crockett sits still, calm, quiet, no smirk, no twitch, just that look, the kind of look that says, "Go ahead, finish your sentence." Now here's the thing people don't understand about Crockett. She's not just another politician with a mic. She's a trained lawyer. She's been in real courtrooms, not just TV debates. She's faced down men twice her age and twice as loud, and she's never once flinched. And in that moment, she's reading Levin like an open book. Levin starts talking, fast, words spilling out like a script he's rehearsed 1,000 times. He mocks her degree, questions her background, throws in a couple of cheap jabs just for the crowd. He thinks he's setting her up for embarrassment. But here's the part he didn't see coming. Crockett doesn't blink, not once. See, that silence? That's not hesitation. That's calculation. And when she finally moves, leans forward just slightly, you can feel the air change. The audience shifts. Even Levin's supporters go a little quiet because something in her eyes says, "You just walked into your own trap." The footage rolls back for a second. You see the difference side by side. Levin, animated, red-faced, performing for applause. Crockett, still as a statue. The more he talks, the smaller the words start to feel. Because arrogance, when it meets composure, always shrinks. You can almost hear the thought running through his head halfway through. Why isn't she reacting? And that's when it hits him. This isn't one of those soft interviews. This isn't a soundbite game. This is a woman who deals in facts, not feelings. He tried to humiliate a lawyer in her own arena, and that's like trying to outswim a shark in open water. The camera cuts to a wide shot. Levin still mid-rant, the sound of his own voice echoing just a little too long. Crockett lets him finish. Every word, every insult, every exaggerated claim. She lets him dig the hole himself. And right there, when the silence finally hits, you can feel the shift. Because that's not ordinary silence. That's verdict silence. That's the kind of quiet that only comes when the crowd realizes one person is about to get legally folded. Levin smirks again, like he still thinks he's got the upper hand. But Crockett doesn't take the bait. She doesn't raise her voice, doesn't roll her eyes, doesn't even look angry. She just tilts her head slightly, like a teacher about to correct a student who clearly didn't do the reading. And in that tone only real professionals can master, she starts. Calm, measured, surgical. She doesn't talk at him, she talks through him. Every point he thought was clever, dismantled. Every gotcha question, reframed. Her sentences hit like case files being dropped on a desk, one after another, undeniable, unshakable. Levin's eyes start to shift. It's that microsecond when you realize you just lost control of your own show. Because now, the audience isn't laughing with him anymore. They're watching her. They're waiting for the next word that's about to end the whole thing. And then she delivers it. One line. Calm, crisp, no stutter, no pause. The kind of line that doesn't need a mic drop because the silence that follows is the mic drop. The room freezes. You can see Levin's face, that half second where ego meets reality. He tries to speak, but the words just don't come out. Everyone else knows it too. That's the moment. That's when the debate ended, not because someone yelled louder, but because someone knew better. The camera lingers on her for a second longer than usual. She doesn't smile, she doesn't celebrate. She just sits back, letting the silence do the talking. That's power, the quiet kind that doesn't need to be explained. And here's where most people miss it. This wasn't about a political win. This was about respect. In a world where shouting gets more views than substance, Jasmine Crockett reminded everyone that composure still conquers chaos. She didn't just win an argument, she redefined what winning even looks like. You look back at Levin now, trying to shuffle his papers, trying to act unbothered, but the truth's already written on his face. That's the expression of a man who knows the spotlight doesn't belong to him anymore. And from that point on, every headline, every clip, every replay said the same thing. She didn't just respond, she ended it. Debate ended, period. But don't blink, because what happens after that silence is what turns this moment from viral to legendary. You ever watch someone get too comfortable, like they think they've already won the argument, already claimed the spotlight, already earned the applause? That's exactly where Mark Levin was. Man looked like he owned the stage, shoulders back, voice booming, hands flying around like he's directing a symphony of arrogance. The crowd's half laughing, half clapping, feeding the energy. And then it happened. That one line, that one sentence that made the entire room go, "Oh, no, he didn't." Levin leans in, smirking like he's about to drop the line of the night. He takes a jab straight at Jasmine Crockett's law degree, mocking it, questioning it, tossing it out there like it's a punchline. He thought it was funny. He thought it would get laughs. But it didn't. It just echoed. And that echo, it was the sound of him crossing a line he didn't even see. The moment the words leave his mouth, you can feel it. The energy in the room changes. It's like time slows down for a second. Camera catches Crockett's face. No shock, no roll of the eyes, not even a twitch. Just calm. Cold calm. Because that's what happens when someone knows they're about to turn your own words into your downfall. The crowd reacts first. Little murmurs, side eyes, that uncomfortable shift where people start thinking, "Oh, he went too far." Even Levin realizes it mid-sentence. You can see it, that tiny flicker of doubt. But now, it's too late. He's said it, and she's heard it. That's the moment where every viewer at home leaned a little closer to their screens. Because when someone tries to humiliate a lawyer like Jasmine Crockett on live TV in front of millions, you don't wonder if she'll respond. You wonder how bad it's about to get. The camera zooms in, Crockett's eyes fixed, breathing steady. Levin's still talking, still trying to dance his way out, but his tone's off now. There's a crack in the confidence. Because when silence meets arrogance, silence always wins. That's the part most people never understand. The power isn't in yelling louder. It's in knowing exactly when not to. Narrator's tone sharpens, like a ringside commentator watching the tables turn in slow motion. You can feel the tension. You can feel the crowd's breath hitch. Everyone waiting for the hit back. Because you know it's coming. And not just any clap back. The kind that doesn't just defend, it dissects. Levin tries to brush it off, throwing his hands in the air like he's just asking questions. But everyone in that room knows it wasn't a question. It was disrespect. And when you disrespect someone who built their career on facts, on evidence, on courtroom composure, you don't get away with it. Not today. Not with her. The editor cuts in slow motion. Levin's lips finishing that last word, Crockett blinking once, the lights reflecting off her eyes. And then, silence. Not awkward silence, not empty silence, the kind of silence that builds pressure. The kind where you know something's about to break. The narrator drops tone, slow, deliberate. The man who talks for a living just made the one mistake no lawyer ever forgives: underestimating their intelligence. The next few seconds feel like forever. Levin glances around, still trying to find control, but that calm stare from Crockett doesn't move. She doesn't need to rush. She doesn't need to prove anything. She's already got him right where she wants him, on record, in his own words, disrespecting credentials she actually earned. Now, the brilliance of Jasmine Crockett isn't in how she argues, it's in how she waits. Because patience in a debate is like a loaded weapon. The longer you wait, the harder it hits. She lets the tension breathe, lets the arrogance echo. And when the moment's finally ripe, when everyone's attention is locked and Levin thinks the silence saved him, that's when she strikes. Her voice breaks the quiet, soft, composed, precise. Not shouting, not snapping, just surgical. She starts dismantling his argument piece by piece, like she's filing evidence in a courtroom. Every phrase hits clean, every fact lands heavy. And by the time she's halfway through, you can see Levin shrinking in his seat. That smirk? Gone. The swagger? Gone. Because she's not responding emotionally, she's responding professionally. And that's something ego can't compete with. The camera pans across the audience, eyes wide, jaws half open. People at home start replaying clips, screen recording, posting captions like "she ate" and "debate over." It's no longer just an exchange, it's a public reversal. Levin tries to interject. You can hear that nervous laugh. But now, every time he speaks, it just makes things worse. Because the contrast is undeniable. One's emotional, the other's in control. And America loves a comeback, especially when it's quiet, factual, and devastating. The music swells slightly, low bass, heartbeat rhythm. Crockett closes her point with one last statement, clean, confident, and final. And that's it. That's the knockout. The crowd reacts not with cheers, but with that deep, stunned silence. The kind that happens when everyone in the room knows they just witnessed something historic. The narrator steps back in. She didn't raise her voice, she raised the stakes. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't humiliation, it's education. Levin sits there, eyes forward, no smirk, no comeback. That's the face of realization. The look of a man who knows the headline tomorrow isn't going to be about what he said, but about how she ended it. And while everyone else is still trying to process it, Jasmine Crockett just leans back. No smile, no gloating, just done. Because that's what happens when arrogance collides with intellect. But here's the thing. This wasn't even her full response. Because what she did next, in the follow-up exchange, that's the part nobody saw coming. That's where the real storm began. You ever seen someone win a fight without even throwing a punch? That's what this moment felt like. While Mark Levin was performing, hands flying, voice raised, trying to fill the room with noise, Jasmine Crockett was just sitting there, calm, collected, unbothered, like a storm that hadn't even started yet. He thought volume meant dominance. She knew silence meant power. And right there, in that calm before the storm, everything started to shift. Levin's voice cuts through the air, sharp, fast, trying to keep momentum. He's pacing verbally, talking over her, talking through her, trying to keep control of the spotlight. You can see the confidence leaking though, because when someone stops reacting, you realize your performance isn't landing anymore. He keeps going, but that same old rhythm, that overconfident radio tone, it starts to sound offbeat now. Forced, like he's trying to convince himself that he's still in charge. Meanwhile, Jasmine sits still, that same calm stare, not a flinch, not a blink, just patience. It's like watching a chess player let the other person talk themselves into a corner. Because Crockett isn't trying to match his energy, she's studying it. And the moment you see that realization flash across her face,
that subtle, quiet smirk, you know it's over. This wasn't noise versus noise. This was chaos versus control. And control always wins. The narrator slows down, voice like a courtroom analyst breaking down evidence. While he was busy performing, she was preparing. Every word he threw, she caught. Every point he tried to stretch, she pinned down. She wasn't just waiting to speak, she was waiting for him to stop digging. There's a quick cut, Levin mid-yell, his voice echoing slightly. The camera pans to her, still calm, still composed. The contrast hits hard. Because at that point, the audience isn't watching him anymore. They're watching her reaction. They want to see how she's going to end it. They can feel something's coming, something big. Levin leans forward again, trying to get that last jab in. You can almost hear the frustration in his tone, the way loudness becomes desperation. He's trying to shake her, trying to get a rise out of her. But you can't rattle someone who's grounded in truth. And the quieter she stays, the more out of control he looks. This wasn't a clapback. This was control. Pure, deliberate, masterful control. The music underneath starts to fade to a low pulse, a heartbeat sound. The silence builds. You can feel the shift in energy. It's like the room itself is waiting for something. And then she moves, just slightly. A small lean forward. It's not aggressive, it's not defensive, it's confident. When she finally starts to speak, her voice is low, firm, steady, not a hint of emotion. She starts breaking down his entire argument, piece by piece, calmly, precisely, like someone who's done this 1,000 times before. You can hear the change in the crown's breathing, that quiet realization moment when everyone knows the balance of power has completely flipped. Levin tries to interrupt once, just once. She doesn't raise her tone, doesn't even look at him. She keeps going, word after word, line after line, until even he stops trying. Because at that point, it's not about volume anymore. It's about substance, and she's got it all. Camera zooms slowly on her face as she delivers that one key line, the line that cuts through the room like a verdict. It's clean, final, surgical. And when it lands, you can see the crowd react. A few gasps, some people smiling, others just frozen. Because that line, that was the one that ended it. That was the one that made the title of this video true. Mark Levin tried to humiliate her, and instead, she ended the debate. Instantly. You can feel the silence afterwards, thick, heavy, undeniable. Levin's face goes blank. You can tell he wants to say something, but there's nothing left to say. Every comeback he had lined up, gone. Every argument he thought he won, dismantled in under a minute. The camera lingers on him for just a beat, his mouth half open, the crowd still processing. Then it cuts back to her. Leaning back now, composed again, hands folded, not even looking his way. She's done talking, because she doesn't need to say anything else. The silence is the statement.
And that's when you realize what just happened wasn't luck. It wasn't a viral moment by accident. It was strategy. Because while he was shouting for attention, she was quietly taking control. She didn't need the noise. She had the truth, and the truth doesn't have to scream to be heard. This is where the emotional punch lands, because people watching at home see themselves in her, that quiet person in a loud room, underestimated, talked over, dismissed, until one moment changes everything. One moment of composure, one perfect sentence, one calm truth that shuts everything down. And as the narrator fades in again, slow, confident, deliberate, that's when it hits. Her calm hit harder than his shouting, because power doesn't always sound like thunder. Sometimes it sounds like silence. And just when everyone thinks it's over, it isn't. Because what she says after that, the follow-up nobody expected, that's what turns this debate from a clapback into a legacy. You know that split second before something big happens, when the whole room goes quiet, when every eye is locked in, when even the cameras seem to freeze? That's exactly what it felt like right before Jasmine Crockett spoke.
She didn't raise her voice, she didn't roll her eyes, she didn't even blink. She just waited. And when she finally opened her mouth, one sentence later, it was over. Mark Levin didn't realize it yet. He still had that half smirk, the kind people wear when they think they've landed the final blow. He thought he'd exposed her. He thought the crowd was his. He thought this was just another debate where he could talk louder, throw in a few fancy words, and walk away victorious. But what he didn't know is that she was about to hand him a defeat he'd feel. The air in that room was heavy. You could almost hear the silence, that tight, electric stillness before impact. The kind of silence that happens when everyone knows something's coming, but no one wants to breathe first. Cameras panned around, audience frozen, a few aides in the back exchanging glances, even the moderator shifting slightly, like they could sense the shift. Because this wasn't normal anymore. Something about the way Crockett was sitting, shoulders relaxed, eyes focused, it told everyone watching, this isn't a reaction, this is a response. Levin tries to fill the silence. He always does. That's what people who fear quiet do. They keep talking. You can hear his voice trailing, repeating, circling the same point, hoping to keep control. But every extra word just digs him deeper. And right as he takes a breath, ready to go again, she moves. Not much, just a slight tilt of her head, but the timing? Perfect. It's like the world stops for that one motion. The camera catches it, the producer knows what's coming. Zoom in, slow motion. You can see her lips part, calm, steady, deliberate. And then she delivers it, that one sentence. Clean, surgical, undeniable. It's not shouted, it's not sarcastic, it's just truth. Truth so precise that it slices through the noise like glass through air. The moment she finishes, there's a beat of silence that feels like forever. Levin freezes, that microsecond where ego meets realization. He looks down, then back up, but you can see it, that flicker in his eyes. That's not confidence anymore, that's impact. The audience reaction tells the whole story. Some jaws drop, some smiles spread slow. You can hear that collective "oh" ripple through the room, not loud, but sharp. Even through the screen, you feel it, the weight of that single line landing harder than every word that came before it. She doesn't follow up, doesn't try to twist the knife. She just lets it hang there, lets the truth echo, lets the silence seal it. That's the kind of control you can't fake, because when you're right, you don't need to prove it. The room does it for you. The narrator lowers tone, almost whisper level now. Sometimes you don't win by being loud, you win by being right. And at that moment, the difference between them couldn't be clearer. Levin, the performer, the talker, the showman, sitting there, speechless. Crockett, the professional, the strategist, the lawyer, not needing another word. That's the visual definition of checkmate. The editor cuts to slow-motion reaction shots. Levin's pen tapping stops, his mouth half open, frozen. One of the audience members blinks slow, like they just witnessed something they weren't expecting. Someone in the back nods, almost under their breath, like they know what just happened. And then, stillness. Not awkward, not uncomfortable, just final. Crockett leans back, hands folded, face calm as ever. The camera catches the faintest expression. Not pride, not smugness, just composure. Because that's what real power looks like. Not loud, not flashy, but certain. The narrator rises again, slow and heavy. That one line didn't just end the debate, it ended the illusion. The illusion that volume equals strength. The illusion that arrogance equals intelligence. The illusion that she could be underestimated. From that point on, nobody cared what Levin said next, because when someone ends you with calm truth, the rest of your words just sound like background noise. And that's exactly what he became, noise fading under the echo of her sentence. As the background score builds, low, cinematic strings, heartbeat rhythm, we zoom out. Clips of the moment replay in quick flashes, Levin's face falling, Crockett's tone steady, the audience leaning in. Social media posts start to roll, captions like, "She ended him," "Debate over," "Debate ended, period." That last phrase flashes across the screen in bold white text. That's the climax, the thumbnail moment. Debate ended, period. But as the narrator fades, there's one more note, one more seed of curiosity. Because that line didn't just end an argument, it started a conversation. And what happened after, in the hours and days that followed, proved that her power didn't just stop in that room, it rippled. Across headlines, across social feeds, across the country. And that ripple is where the real story begins. Man, you ever watch a moment so powerful it echoes after the camera's cut? That's what this was. It wasn't just a debate, it was the kind of silence that hits louder than a scream. When Jasmine Crockett stopped talking, America didn't. And that's when everyone knew this wasn't just a clapback, this was a reckoning. After that exchange, something strange happened. The air in that room shifted. The chatter, the noise, the constant interruptions, all of it froze like someone hit pause on reality. You could almost see Mark Levin trying to process what just happened. He came in loud, chest out, ready to dominate. But when she finished her sentence, he had nothing left. Not a counter, not even a smirk. Just that look. The look every man wears when his own ego just introduced him to humility. The clip spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was all over social media. Captions reading, "Debate ended, period." TikToks looping her one line over and over again. Comment sections full of people saying, "That right there, that's how you end an argument." It wasn't rage that won, it was composure. She didn't need to shout him down, she just let the truth hang there long enough for it to sting. News anchors picked it up next. One segment called it the most composed takedown of the year. Another headline read, "Crockett's calm shatters Levin's legacy moment." You could see even conservative analysts struggling to defend him. They weren't talking strategy anymore, they were talking damage control. And the crazy part? Crockett didn't even react after. No victory grin, no "I told you so." Just silence. That's what burnt the most. Because silence from someone who knows they just won, that's lethal. She left the stage and the cameras caught her walking out without looking back. Meanwhile, Levin was still there, eyes darting, trying to spin it.
The reactions were brutal. Twitter lit up with lines like, "She didn't argue, she educated him." And "This is what happens when confidence meets competence." People weren't just clapping for her, they were analyzing her. The way she held her posture, the way she paused before speaking, every gesture became a symbol of control. It wasn't performance, it was presence. Late-night shows jumped in too. One host replayed Levin's stunned face with the caption, "When you realize the debate just ended and you're still talking," the audience roared. Even clips from political podcasts started rolling in. Some called it a masterclass in emotional intelligence. Others said she didn't destroy him, she let him destroy himself. But the deeper layer here, it wasn't about winning a debate. It was about how the truth works. You can shout over it, mock it, try to twist it, but once it lands, it doesn't need to yell. It just stays. That's what made the moment hit home for so many Americans watching. In a world full of loudmouths and cheap shots, Crockett reminded people what it looks like when reason stands tall without raising its voice. And here's where it got interesting. Levin couldn't let it go. The next day, he went on his show trying to explain what happened. He said she misunderstood his point. But even his fans knew that was damage control. The comments under that video? Rough. "You got cooked. Just take the L. She ended it. Stop digging." His usual swagger was gone. He sounded defensive, small, like a man trying to rewind a moment everyone already replayed 1,000 times. Meanwhile, Crockett stayed silent. No tweets, no interviews, just that one clip living rent-free in the public's head. And that's when it hit people. This wasn't just about her beating Mark Levin. This was about a shift. About how audiences are done with arrogance dressed up as intellect. Done with men who mistake loudness for leadership. Done with people who talk over the truth instead of listening to it. The silence after that debate wasn't empty, it was echoing. It traveled from the hearing room to social feeds, from podcasts to dinner tables. Parents showing their kids the clip saying, "That's how you handle disrespect." College students posting it with captions like "goals." It became more than a viral moment, it became a blueprint. Because here's the thing, Debates end every day, but moments like that, they live on. Not because of the words said, but because of how they make you feel. And this one made America feel something rare: relief. Relief that someone still knows how to fight with facts, not fury. That truth, when spoken quietly, can still shake the loudest rooms. But don't think for a second that was the end. Because while Crockett moved on, Levin's world didn't. Producers, pundits, colleagues all started asking the same question. If he can't handle her, can he handle the truth? And that's where the real story begins. Because when the truth echoes louder than noise, it doesn't just end a debate, it ends an era. And what happened next? Let's just say Levin's reaction off camera was even louder than anything he said on it. You know what's wild? He still tried to spin it after losing, and somehow that made it worse. Because when the truth is on tape, no tweet, no post, no fancy radio rant can rewrite what the whole country already saw. Mark Levin didn't just lose a debate that night, he lost the illusion that shouting the loudest means you're right. The morning after, he went live like nothing happened. Same tone, same attitude, calling it media spin, saying people misunderstood his intent. But deep down, everyone knew he was scrambling. The clip had already gone nuclear. Millions of views, thousands of comments. Even his own followers couldn't defend him. The top comment under his post said, "Mark, the tape doesn't lie." Another said, "Man, she cooked you and didn't even break a sweat." Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett, silent, not a word. No interview, no post, no victory lap. And that silence, that unbothered calm, hit harder than any comeback ever could. Because the one who stays quiet after the storm is usually the one who won. Every major outlet ran the story. CNN replayed the clip with slow-motion edits, highlighting the exact second Levin's face changed. That, "Wait, did I just lose this?" look. MSNBC called it a textbook takedown. Even neutral commentators couldn't deny it. "She didn't destroy him," one analyst said. "She just made him face himself." But here's where the aftershock really started. The debate clip stopped being about politics. It became something bigger, a cultural checkpoint. People on both sides of the aisle started sharing it, not because they agreed with her politics, but because they respected her composure. Facts over fury. That line started trending. It became a slogan on shirts, TikToks, captions. Because in a world addicted to chaos, Crockett proved that calm is still the ultimate flex. Levin tried everything. He posted a follow-up video, talking fast, laughing nervously, saying she dodged the question. But every time he talked, the internet just looped her response again. The clip didn't fade, it grew. People were using it in debate classes. Reaction channels broke it down frame by frame. And when one student posted, "This is how you dismantle arrogance with elegance," it hit 1 million likes overnight. Even fellow commentators who once praised Levin started distancing themselves. You could see it, the awkward pauses, the sidestepping on their shows. Nobody wanted to be associated with a man who'd just been fact-checked into silence by someone half his age with twice his restraint. The internet doesn't forget, but it definitely remembers. And that's what made this moment so powerful. It wasn't about humiliation, it was about exposure. The debate didn't just reveal who had the better argument, it revealed who had character. One person relied on volume, the other relied on truth. And when those two forces collide, ego always cracks first. The sound design of this story says it all. In the clip, you can hear Levin's voice getting sharper, louder, more defensive. And then Crockett speaks, steady, controlled. The decibel drop feels like a punchline, the kind of silence you can feel. And that's when the audience realized something bigger. The loudest voice in the room just lost control of the narrative. From that day, the phrase "ego meets reality" started popping up in political memes, even editorial pieces. Because it wasn't just Mark Levin's ego that took a hit. It was an entire way of debating built on dominance instead of depth. And Crockett? She didn't just walk away victorious. She walked away as proof that the next generation of leadership doesn't need to scream to be heard. Weeks later, the clip was still circulating. Commentators called it the debate that redefined tone. Podcasters called it the viral civics lesson.
And on late night, one host joked, Mark Levin tried to teach her a lesson. Turns out he enrolled himself. The audience roared. But the truth is, this wasn't about comedy. This was about change. Because the people watching weren't just entertained, they were reminded. Reminded that knowledge still beats noise, that confidence without character collapses the moment it's challenged, and that when truth speaks softly, the whole world still listens. Now rewind for a second, back to that moment she said it, the one sentence that ended the debate. No yelling, no finger pointing, just logic, precision, timing. The camera caught everything, her eyes steady, her tone unwavering, and that brief silence afterward where even Levin's mic seemed to hesitate. That right there, that was the end of an era. The era where talk show theatrics could overshadow truth. The era where shouting down women was still seen as winning. The era where ego always got the last word. Until that night.
Because when Crockett spoke, she didn't just defend herself. She shifted the standard. She reminded America what real debate sounds like when it's grounded in fact, not fury. And no matter how many spin cycles Levin tried, the truth was already trending. The internet crowned the real winner long before the next commercial break. So yeah, he kept talking, but the world had moved on. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was final. The clip kept echoing, week after week, like a cultural reset button being pressed in real time. And that's how one calm response ended more than a debate. It ended an era of loud without logic. Because when ego finally meets reality, reality always wins.